Welcome to the Weekend Watch List on Intercut, the weekly show where we go through all of the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. I am your host, Arturo Surita, and joining me, this is a man who knows no boundaries over here on his second tour to Pandora, Zachary Shevik.
What's going on, man? I think we've all done our rounds of the Hallelujah Mountains this weekend and come back a
The
little
depths of
bluer,
water.
a
Yeah.
little with a little bit more of an appreciation for the environment. Is it wrong to call this an environmentalist film if it doesn't really talk about like the Earth's environment, or what are we
Hey,
going with here?
there's a reason why the Pandoran people, the Navi, look just like us. They're supposed to be us. The man made a whale documentary. I don't know if you know this. Before he shot Avatar, he was working on a whale documentary. Then you go watch Avatar and it's just whales, and I'm like, oh, I see. It's probably just the whales that he put all the dots on. So I'm pretty sure it's a nature documentary. He
Yeah.
discovers it in his blue technology and he calls it a day. But definitely one of the biggest movies of the year, biggest movies of the week. I would call it an environmentally friendly movie,
Yeah.
and one that probably people are still watching. If you start watching this Saturday, maybe you're still in the theater. Maybe you're doing another round. I do call it tours. I feel like people are going into this thing. You're wearing heavy gear on you. These glasses have
Hmm.
gotten bigger since the last time. I remember when you were able to take them home. Now you have to
Right.
recycle them so that they clean them for the next people who are coming in to wear them for 3 hours. And I had my glasses on for both times that I saw it, so I'm wearing like double the gear in it. But yeah, screenings. I don't know how they've been for you over there. If they've been sold out. There's been a
They've
lot of
been.
box office talk.
Yeah, I mean, they're the IMAX screenings are all sold out, and so that's the
I'm
harder thing. And
surprised.
come on, if you want to do it right, you got to do the Dolby, you got to do the
It's
real thing.
Dolby.
Yeah,
That's coming from the
um,
IMAX duo over here, telling you that
yeah,
Dolby's the way to go.
yeah. But it's the standard screenings that have not been as sold out. So it's
Mm.
interesting, but it is definitely a huge phenomenon. And the huge I mean, everything else cleared out the way for this movie, and it seems
Yep,
to be like the talk of any film medium right now. Although to
easily.
me, the most dramatic thing I experienced this weekend was
The
Argentina,
World Cup.
France.
The messiest of things that came out this weekend, easily there. Yeah, they damn near went to 3 hours too. Honestly, with the
Yeah,
penalty kicks and
of
everything.
similar
So
runtimes.
honestly, it was a pretty good weekend overall. Not just having big
Yeah.
movies at home. You having our tour director, if you want to call him that, coming in with a what was supposed to be a 3 hour epic over on Netflix. You had a 3 hour game with the World Cup. A lot of good things
Hmm.
going on. So why not just begin it the way that I think the biggest character, one of your favorite characters of all time, Jake Sully once said, "Let's get it done then." Beginning with the new
Ooh.
stuff from this week, we have The Way of Water, which we have a spoiler free discussion. We have a whole spoiler discussion. Just recapping it, for me, I think it's worth going out to the theaters because of the technology. Hopefully, you have a good theater. The story is better than the first, and I'm glad they're expanding on the family.
Yeah, it,
And I
it
think it's going to have
definitely.
legs box office wise.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about all this in our reviews, but it's definitely really setting the stage for what will become of the Avatar franchise. And given that it made $134 million just in the United States this weekend, it seems fairly safe to say that we'll be getting a couple more of these movies. Um,
Yeah, I
and
was telling
and
you, people
weirdly,
forgot the first one made 77.
yeah,
So this
exactly.
is good.
Yeah, this is a really good return, and it is going to be a movie that I feel like they'll hold in theaters for a little while, since it really is a film that I think is enhanced by getting that big screen Dolby 3D type of screening. All that being said, even though I have my misgivings with the film, and I don't think it's a perfect movie, I think it's enjoyable and absolutely worth going to. Uh, the way that they've positioned it makes me feel like what's to come is going to be the best Avatar we get ever.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm still on the train for Leo DiCaprio getting cast in the movie. That'll change the whole industry. But I thought the tech was worth it. I do think that that's the reason to go see it in the theater because he's bringing in a reason for you to have to go to one. You know, a
Hmm.
lot of these things, I'm just gonna keep it a buck. We love the Fablemans. We have a whole spoiler after credits for the Fablemans. I understand why some people want to see that at home. This gives you no excuse. So we'll see how that goes because I do think he's a little nervous. He's not as confident as he was in 2010.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the reception, the word of mouth has been there. People have been discussing it. I think a lot of the sequences that they've been showcasing do look beautiful. I agree with you. They said they shot three and parts of four already. So, I mean, it's in the works. But, Zach,
Yeah.
we talked about this in our spoiler talk. I think we could keep this a little unspoilery because it's really the discussions of blue people. But I love how you and I took it to a whole nother level. But everyone's still at this point right here. They can't get over this kid. And I think the
Yeah,
discussions of him is a reason why this movie's going to have legs. But damn, the talk about Spider this weekend, I don't know how much you got to see it.
yeah.
But after all of the new characters, this was the boy who was getting it the most. To me, I found it funny with all the memes we've been seeing for the World Cup to see this kid up on the big screen with all the blue people. He thinks he's part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, it's just funny because I feel like he also represents part of what is so visually striking about the film is that
About
the
the movie,
way
yeah.
they're able to integrate like elements of live action and then these more enhanced elements. But yeah, I mean, it does, I think, at least allude to some of the aspects to the story that maybe at least allegorically, if you
Yeah.
want to go that far, may, are weird, are uncomfortable, are maybe
Not
mishandled.
the
But I don't know. I feel like there's also a quality to film about the transformational nature of these things and the idea of like being inspired and then creating something new. Um, I don't know, man. I feel like sometimes people go really take things really harshly when they don't
I
necessarily have to.
think people take things that they don't even realize because they have a problem with this
Yeah.
and not the 40, 50-year-old playing the 14-year-old with like no clothing. They don't have a problem with, oh, who are these individuals over here? A bunch of other actors who, if you saw them doing
Right.
different voices or having the type of hair that they have in the real world, right here, we kept joking about this being Kate Winslet.
Yeah.
Again, we have all this in the
Unrecognizable.
spoiler discussion, but if you have a problem with Spider, wait till you find out who these actors are who are doing indigenous voices, who have on particular wigs that would have never worked in live action. But hey, it took millions of dollars. Jimmy got away with it. He's got his stuff done. At the end of the day, I agree with you. I think the future ones are going to be where it really hits. I think it's going to be where it like really brings in the story forward. And I don't know. You gave your prediction for Top Gun earlier this year. You were right. Nostradamus, tell me, are we expecting this to surpass the first one?
uh Man, I mean, it's so hard to know the legs right now on these things. I do feel like it will do very well. I do feel like it probably uh will get like within range of the first one, but um I it's hard. I don't know. I don't know where I'm at right now. I think I could
You're not as
guess that
confident.
this will be. I'm not as confident. I do feel
That
like it'll be
sucks.
top 15, maybe top 10 box office
Ooh,
all
ain't nobody
time.
want to be on top 15. Go
Yeah,
top
he
10.
wants
I
to be
saw
number
them
one.
celebrating 11. 11 in the domestic one. I'm like, that's not cute. It's not even top
Yeah,
10. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I guess we'll see. It is going to be a very empty Christmas release.
That's a
January is
good point.
pretty empty as well. I don't think you have anything big. I don't think it has to look out for Megan. So it will have plenty of time and so many extra screens that it's showcasing. So we'll keep you updated with all the Avatar news and
Yeah.
3 and 4 and 5 and everything that's coming. We're
Its
here,
pursuit
dude. It felt
of
like
the box office crown.
but it felt so long that we've been talking about Avatar finally being here. Now we're in the midst of it, and I wonder, do you remember us covering? And I think we had probably already started Intercut or some form of Newsday Tuesday where we were talking
Yeah.
about Force Awakens before we were in this Star Wars realm that we are now. There was still that period of time where we were like, it hasn't begun yet. So now that we're in the Avatar thing, do you think we're going to get the MCU Star Wars fatigue now that all the products are coming out?
You know, I think that is potentially like a risk of the proliferation of any kind of cinematic universe or whatever. I have a feeling based on the way that they carefully handle the look of these films, how much CGI innovation goes into them, that there will be big enough breaks that that fatigue won't set in as much. Maybe the it won't feel quite as much as of an event if it's not
Yeah.
happening once a decade. But I don't feel it's going to get to that like Marvel level of like, oh, really another one like 2 months later? Because there's going to be at least like 2 years between all these movies. It feels like.
Yeah. Well, I'm standing with it. When it ends, it's all going to be VR. We don't have to go to the theaters. But hopefully, when the VR world comes in, they will still give us some really cool things. Zach, I think you've been noticing different trailers that have come out throughout the weekend. I
Ooh.
made it out of my way, even though I've seen it in Dolby, which I still think is a preferred method. I had to go out of my way to go see it in IMAX. Sadly, Wasn't as good as Adobe, wasn't as crisp, but
Yeah.
the IMAX screenings gave you something that you weren't getting with Adobe. Now, you've seen this Oppenheimer trailer here, right? They've been showcasing this for the longest time. I love this trailer, bro. It is the live
Mhm.
stream trailer that they've been playing since July, and
Yeah.
99 of us are watching it right now, and it changes. I don't know if you've noticed this, but this IMAX trailer for Oppenheimer has a countdown
Yeah.
to the release of the movie, and it
I
is
was
actually
wondering that.
updated in real time.
That's crazy.
I love that. I'm gonna wait for it to play here, but I'm gonna hype up this other thing that has been on the horizon, and that has been the fact that we have another Oppenheimer trailer. I'm not gonna play the whole bit here, but luckily, it is now out. A lot of people thought we were going to have to be in theaters to see it, and honestly, it's shot in IMAX. There's no better way to see it.
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that it's supposed to be a little different, but as I'm looking at it here, and I think you said you've seen some of these shots, not only do they look gorgeous, but I can attest that this is what we saw up on the big screen, just not in the IMAX ratio.
Yeah.
Guys, this guy is winning Best Actor next year. I am saying it right now. I think that Nolan got worried when he allowed in Interstellar his characters to cry and show emotion. I don't think any of us think of Nolan as the actor's director.
Yeah.
I think this is going to change that. I think this man's going to take the gold. And this is easily, sorry to the Barbie fans out there, my most anticipated theatrical event of next year.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've been a big Christopher Nolan proponent for a long time. I think he's like a really amazing filmmaker. He is a filmmaker that, at least, for the last few films, has leaned a lot more towards entertainment and spectacle and making these big movies rather than something that's a little bit more, thoughtful or morally complicated, or has an actor that's really able to wrestle with some kind of larger dilemma. This feels way more prestigey than most of the films that he makes. This feels like it's trying to actually be a film with a message, like a very historically grounded retelling
A
of
drama,
uh,
yeah.
of the story of the atomic bomb. I don't know. There's a part of me that wonders how Christopher Nolan will be sort of in a more muted tone. And obviously, it's not going to be a muted movie
How about
because
it?
you see all the explosive nature of the film. But like it's definitely seems like a film with like a different goal than, I don't know, Tenant. You know,
Yeah.
so part of me wonders if like summer is the right time for this movie. It feels almost more like a fall awardsy type film. It makes me wonder if like there's a world in which this movie loses its opening weekend to Barbie, despite this being like
Really?
the like really amazing kind of technical looking film.
Me, I look because I am rooting for Barbie as well, but just the theaters that this will be in, the tickets will be more in. That's his date, dude. He gave that to Nope this year. Nope had it, and Nope's the one that presented the teaser trailer for Oppenheimer. So for him to get it back, I'm really excited. I mean, you heard how he shot it, right? When you go to the theater, you're gonna have a scratch and sniff, and you'll be able to smell the nuclear explosions actually happening right in front of you. He's taking it to the next level. I'm excited to see whatever he puts on screen, and the fact that he's shooting it in IMAX. Uh, it has me excited all over, and I can't wait. I might make the road trip for this one next year. We will see.
Yeah.
You had just mentioned the other trailer that played, just as big, just as tall, and just as talked about, coming out on the same damn day. Greta Gerwig's Barbie. I don't know if you saw that meme about it's only little women and big women with her. Um, I like the homages here. I like
Yeah,
the 2001
2001.
callbacks. I have absolutely no idea what this movie is about. It makes me even
Well,
more
that's
confused than it was before,
but
and it's
that's like a
so
good
intriguing.
teaser, right? Like you want just
Yes.
sort of like a vague, abstract look at what you're going to get, and we get some visual iconography. We get the very like pink look of the film. Do you
Yup.
think this whole bit from the trailer is in the movie, or do you think this is maybe shot specifically for a trailer?
So to me, I thought it was specifically for a trailer.
Hmm.
But then I remember what they mentioned, which was Truman Show, which was all these
Hmm.
different things. And I'm under the impression that they're going to do a Free Guy thing. I don't think she realizes she's a. Sorry if I'm about to spoil it. I don't think she realizes she's a doll. Because there's a lot of
Mm.
Kens that we know have been cast.
Yeah,
And clearly she looks like she's being played with, but she doesn't get that she's not her own person. That's where I think it's
interesting.
going to go. So there's a part of me where it feels like she doesn't realize she's in the Toy Story mode. Unlike the Toy Stories, I realize they're toys. This is her Buzz moment.
Right.
She's gonna realize she's a toy.
A little bit of
My
like
theory.
Lego movie going on.
Thank you. Lego Movie's the best example. What about you? Think they're gonna take it a different way?
No, I mean I love that interpretation of it. I was wondering whether or not this is going to be something that's in the film or not, but it also just seems like so fun that I kind of want it to be in the movie.
Yeah. Nah, it's a clean teaser. It gives you
I
everything you
like it a
need to
lot.
know. I know there was a little bit of pushback because some people have been in some IP. Zach, I'm not gonna ask anything about said actor. All I want to know is, do you not consider this IP?
I mean, who doesn't think that films based on wildly popular Mattel toys is an original piece of work?
I was surprised to hear a lot of people say that just like other movies, if there's no story to come behind it and you're just taking the face of it, then technically you are creating something new from scratch. And then someone mentioned, so then the Emoji Movie must have been an original work of art
Right.
then.
Exactly.
We'll see where
That's
they go with
exactly
it.
what Scorsese was
Yeah,
hoping for.
exactly. All I'll say is I'm not one who's upset when a big prolific director finally gets the money to do something. I just hope that this and Lion King 2 and all of these projects from indie filmmakers
Yeah.
deliver. But Barbie, one of the best teasers of
Yeah.
the week, but
I'm
probably
I'm still I'm still in the camp that Greta Gerwig is like smart and talented and funny enough to really pull this off, and the teaser has not like
easily.
dissuaded me at
Yeah.
all.
You mentioned Oppenheimer being on the wrong day. You think Barbie's perfect for the summer then? It's not a prestigious one that you want to have at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the summer movie comedy moment that I think people hoped like Bros would be, and maybe Bros came a little bit too late that it
Mm-hmm.
missed that window. But I think it's fun to have like a big summer comedy to go to. I feel like a lot
Interesting.
of the comedies that I have good memories of like getting friends together and going to see were films that were released in the summer months.
The boys will be going to Barbie day one for two
Yeah.
tickets, please. Prime recliners. I guess to me, it's like I'm seeing it less as a comedy, but I guess you're right. They're going to market it, have that whole summer Barbie
Hmm.
experience for everybody. But I guess to me, it's like with the Truman Show. I keep thinking this is like what Don't Worry, Darling wanted to be. That it's
Yeah.
supposed to be more of a heady thinker of a movie. So I don't know. We'll
Hmm.
see. But again, both coming out the same day. It's going to be an interesting double feature. I think it's still next year too. The surprising trailer, and I guess I have one more, but there was
Woo!
two IMAX trailers I was not expecting to see, and they weren't even trailers. The first one, which I actually don't have pulled up, but I'll mention here, Michael B. Jordan did a featurette about how he's directing Creed 3, and it's him discussing how he used IMAX cameras. I thought it looked really cool. So I don't know if that's out yet. Keep an eye out for that. I know it was an IMAX exclusive, but so was this one, and now it's out. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 had a really cool stunt that ends the teaser trailer. And they said, wouldn't it be cool if we just put out a whole thing that was just the making of the stunt? You know, you've gone off the deep end. And I mean that figuratively, not literally what he's doing here. When you literally don't have to showcase your movie anymore, you are just
Hmm.
showcasing the making of the film because everybody knows that that's what we're coming for. This was incredible. This is even longer than what they showed me at the theater. So I need to go back and view this whole 9 minute version because we didn't get the stunt bikes. It was just a quick 3 minute. We're building the ramp and we're gonna shoot him out. There's a part in this teaser where they boot him out of the thing and he almost doesn't open. He does like a double on
Yeah.
the thing. I know he's alive. Why am my palms getting sweaty?
And there's moments also where they show him making the jump and they cut to Christopher McQuarrie and his face looks like, oh my God, did I just watch Tom Cruise die? It is so crazy. No matter how many times they show him risking his life, it still feels like he's risking his life. I'm so hyped on this movie, but it also makes me think, what is the promotion cycle about to be that they're putting this 9 minute featurette about the like iconic stunt from the trailer out a full what 8 months before we're gonna get this movie? 7 months?
Sometimes people have too much success, and I think Top Gun was too much success. I'm not. I thought he had already done his victory lap. I'm not ready for what he has next. The man's old. How's he doing this in his 60s, dude? He's about to be
Ah,
unhinged.
yeah.
I'm excited for it. Yeah, no, I have nothing else to say. It is. I was blown away seeing this up on the big screen. This is another IMAX one. This is one worth traveling for. But what a great weekend! If your trailers are killing it that big, with
Oh
Mission
yeah.
Impossible, Barbie, and Oppenheimer. I mean, there's no nowhere else to go but up. But after all of the theatrical stuff, let's bring it back home. We actually had a movie that has been doing the rounds at festivals. He is an Oscar, multi-Oscar winner.
Yeah,
Alejandro
back to
González
back.
Iñárritu has come back with Bardo, or False Chronicle. I put the or in there. I'm over here doing the Kubrick. Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths. What was once a 3-hour movie over at Venice. I think we've
Mhm.
seen, we know some people who have caught it over there. Ewan was telling me that it was it was no bueno, no good. They've cut it down. It is now 2
Yeah.
hours and 39 minutes, and some people may say, it was it was longer than this. It is available for you to watch at home, which is the way that Alejandro does not want you to watch it. But it is the easiest way that it was delivered because unless you're Knives Out, you're not getting the AMC deal. And so, Bardo, the edited version, is out for people to watch at home. He has considered this a sort of dreamlike state movie where the main actor looks a lot like him, and people think it's him venting about being this figure who he is a filmmaker and journalist and an artist in this movie who doesn't feel he fits in America, doesn't feel he fits in back home in Mexico. He feels the people in America have called him out. He feels the people in Mexico don't want to listen to his advice. And you get this movie that at some points can be really fascinating. And I felt almost like a big fish element to it where you can't tell where something's beginning, something's ending.
Mhm.
And then at other moments felt like Malcolm and Marie. You have a filmmaker who's venting for 2.5 hours in this movie. Did it vibe with you, Zach?
I so
I'm gonna take that as a no.
yeah, I started it. I did not
Okay.
finish it. So I'm doing an
You
incomplete
got the half of it. All right.
reaction to it. But like it is definitely an extremely visually striking film. He's coming off of a couple films where he worked with Emmanuel Lubezki, who's one of the most singular cinematographers working. This film not shot by Lubezki, though in moments it really
Nope.
feels like it's instead shot by Darius Kanji, who, aside from working with David Fincher on films like Seven and Panic Room, more recently did Uncut Gems with the Safdies and has also done Armageddon Time earlier this year. So a very good cinematographer, although there have been people who've had some complaints with how he shoots his films. It's just immediately noticeable how
Wide.
striking these images are, how widescreen and the long lenses, and it rather than introducing you really to the story, it starts with just a series of kind of like visual vignettes, whether it's like the water all around his ankles or the
Yep.
floating through the sky or the extremely long umbilical cord, and it's stuff that is like stunning to look at, but also like a little uncomfortable, but not in a way that's like discomfort, just like is off-putting. Like I found myself over and over again kind of being like, why is this what you want to be doing right now? Like, why is this the scene that feels like it's communicating what you want it to communicate? It's just a very indulgent on these all these images and these setups, and doesn't necessarily it feels overpowering sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to sit with it and actually watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. It was just like it was a lot of movie,
it
and
is.
there's still like more than an hour and a half of it for it to go to for it of it to go for me.
Yeah, this is the way he referred to it. I think you kind of were alluding to it. He's not looking back at his memories. He's looking back at what the emotion was.
Yeah,
Whatever he felt of those instances, that's what he's trying to get you to resonate with. Not so much what happened during this scene, during that moment. I know he had said that he's got a circular motion to it, so there's no real beginning, middle, or end. So I saw some people mentioning Birdman and The Revenant. If you are fans of those films, I think you will like this one, but know that it takes it even more further in being abstract.
yeah, yeah.
I see someone had also mentioned Roma, and it was interesting because he was talking about looking back at Mexico City, but not looking at it in a black and white form. He wanted the colors to pop. He wanted things to feel a certain way. I'm conflicted with this movie because I think it's very self indulgent. But I feel we allow other directors to be even more self indulgent and they've gotten a pass.
Hmm.
And we just so happen to have a director here who is kind of saying, I've been pushed to the side and I'm not welcome in either way, either place. and then proceeds to get that in the film where he's venting that. But I also think he's being way too over the top. He doesn't stop these bits that he's doing. He's going on and
Yeah.
on. As someone who loves to take tangents, I get what he's going for, but it could be tiring on the other side. So my
Yeah.
question I really leave with is, I've seen some people critique this, but they had no time with the patience on another director. And I both want to wonder, why don't you give him the time? But then I also wonder, why aren't we able to critique him when it turns out, yes, directors can be self-indulgent. So I just want to know, why couldn't we call those other ones there self-indulgent?
Right.
I think he says a lot of stuff in this movie with the way that he feels played. There was a previous feature that he worked, and not even a feature. It was one of the big reasons why I'm really huge on VR. Through the Academy, he had worked on a VR project, and that's what he's been away for so long since he made The Revenant. It's this VR crossing of the border.
Right.
Have you seen this, Zach? Have you heard of
Uh,
this?
I've heard of it, but I haven't had a chance to see it or
Because it's an
experience it.
installation that only the
Yeah.
rich people were able to do. And I
Yeah.
think this is a man who's venting about how he made the 7-minute feature, a VR experience where you're traveling with immigrants who are crossing the border. And yet it was only available for like really rich people who did what? Played Get Out? There's an episode on Apple for this TV series called Roar where they get Issa Rae's character to sell her story that she thought was going to be a feature of her dad getting shot in front of her, and they turn it into a VR film for the rich people to experience what it's like to be a little girl in that moment.
Mm.
I think he's venting in this movie what he felt he was used for to make this feature. And Bardo represents being in the middle of two different places. He made this feature, this VR, installation, and he learned so much about the people who he's representing, but he isn't. In the movie, he vents about how he's a rich Mexican, yet he tells a story for the poor people. So he got to know poor people and immigrants here, yet the only people who were able to see this presentation were the rich. And I think, I don't even think, he said it, this was the cause for him writing Bardo and feeling like he was in the middle of two worlds. So I think, and I appreciate a lot of what he's venting in this movie, which is another reason I want to give it another go around. It's just a film that takes a lot of your patience. It's a film where I think we recognize a lot of American cinema, but if you don't know Latin cinema, you're not going to understand his references. And it was interesting seeing people see the Fellini in it, but they don't know anybody else. I've always laughed. You'll get people who will make fun of you for not knowing Varda, but then they don't know a whole country's filmography. And not be pompous in the reverse way. So if you don't understand the roots of what he's calling back to, this is his first movie that he shot in Mexico since Amores, I think. I think you're going to miss a lot of the movie. So I understand it not being for people, but then I also don't understand why other directors are allowed to tell these types of stories. So I'm conflicted with it. But
Definitely.
I recommend people catching it at home because it's the easiest way where, you know, if you're not feeling it, you could pause it. You could watch it in segments. Regardless of what the artist's vision is, it's still available for you to catch if you weren't able to see the original 3-hour cut in Venice, which I'm still interested in it. But yeah, this is not the most accessible as his other films.
I
It's
wonder.
venting the movie.
I wonder why, considering that it's Netflix, they aren't aren't releasing both cuts
The
or at least
reviews.
making. I mean, yeah, obviously, but like it's more like me wondering why Netflix isn't better. I guess when they have this ability through streaming to
Yeah,
give you these options and put stuff out that they could very easily make the 3-hour cut a special feature, or maybe they will down the line, but I don't know.
maybe. Why aren't people better? The question for the day. But
Yeah.
Alejandro Iñárritu has a new one, Bardo. If you're curious, check it out. I think it has some very interesting cinematography. Says a lot of stuff in there, even if he rants about it for a little too long. But it is available over on Netflix. Over on Prime, we've got a little movie called Nanny that we were able to cover back at Sundance and putting it on people's radar because it's one of the most intriguing thrillers dealing a lot with culture and where you have a nanny who takes care of this very upper class, I believe they were in New York, Manhattan couple who have a child who's starting to assimilate more to her foods and her way of speaking, and that starts to bother the family a little bit. I had the chance to revisit a little bit of this, especially some interviews. Now that it's out on Prime, it did a really great festival run. I don't know if you were able to catch it again, but I would highly recommend putting this one on people's radar because I think it's one of the better movies that Prime was able to release this year.
Yeah, I haven't caught it since Sundance, but it was one of the ones that I remember most vividly from Sundance, and obviously was the award winner from the U.S. Dramatic category.
It was.
Yeah, so it's worth
Thank you for that.
keeping up with, even if you just have like a curiosity in Sundance and the types of movies that get chosen and awarded there. There's a lot of really fascinating stuff to this film, and I think it also rewards like reading up about some of the
Rewatches.
folk horror and elements that are incorporated in it. But yeah, I do think that there's so much that so much intriguing about the way that people are set against each other, or the way that different characters are used in this film. Michelle Monaghan, uh,
She's fantastic.
probably the most recognizable face here, is really really good in it. But yeah, Anna Diop in the main role really does have like the big like weight of this character, and I think it's definitely one of the movies that is getting overlooked from this year. So if you have a chance to check it out on Amazon Prime, it's absolutely worth the time.
If I may, a little tangent here about: do you believe filmmakers should call out critics?
I I don't like when they do it because I think there's like a power
Why?
disparity there, but at the same time, there's a lot of like film
What?
critics who don't
There's
really.
no power disparity between film critics. What's the director
Well,
of
I
this
mean, I
movie?
guess it. I guess.
What's the name of the director of this movie?
But I guess
Ain't no power disparity. Yeah.
when you said it to me, I was thinking more about the James Camerons of the world than the Nikaju Jusus.
Oh,
But
now you're gonna make me. What did you think about James Cameron flipping off those people? I'm kind of pro that too because I don't think those were fans. But
yeah,
sticking to this, I think the reason why this hasn't been up there, you can even see it from the score, is the fact that a lot of big major outlets, when it came out from Sundance, they trashed it, bro, and they didn't not like it. They belittled it. So
hmm
that could be an answer in terms of those two different worlds that you have there from a filmmaker and artist, and then critics who may not understand that world. So I do like that someone had mentioned in the comments about the Atlanta season 3 episode because that's one of the big things after catching this
yeah.
at Sundance, that when we got that Chet Hanks episode, I correlated with it a lot. So Nanny
There
out
are
on Prime
definitely
and worth catching.
similarities there, and for what it's worth, Nanny was out well before that Atlanta
Hmm.
episode was out. But Nanny is also like a more uh, deeply thought psychological and cultural thriller than the Atlanta episode, which is mostly played for as a joke.
Still same themes though, but
Yeah.
a good
Yes.
doubleheader, I
Yes.
guess, if you want to catch them.
Yes.
Zach caught this next one. I got to see the beginning of it, so I have to wrap it after I finish this. But it
Cool.
comes from a director who I really like. It's called The
Yeah.
Big Four, coming from Timo. How do you say his last name, bro?
I would just embarrass myself trying, so let's stick with Timo.
Jajanto, I want to say, but I love The Night Comes for Us. This was a movie I recommended for several weeks. It's also on Netflix, and I highly recommend. I liked his segment in VHS 94 the most from that. I
hmm
think he's a really interesting director, but I don't think everything he makes always hits. How
hmm
did you feel about this one?
I kind of thought this one was a lot of fun. It's not necessarily like the most high quality or like or completely original action adventure out there, but there's something to be said for launching you headfirst into the story. The first 11 minutes of this movie are some of the most like minute for minute
Yeah.
effective introduction to this type of story I've ever seen. I and the characters are also like a really fun eclectic group. I think when you are able to focus on the dynamic between the big four, you're able to get these really uh, fun moments of comedic relief that are interrupt these more hard hitting bits of action. But it is that sort of balance of really effective action scenes that are really well choreographed with these delightful performances and pretty fun characters. It's kind of minor, but this is, I think, a little bit more of like what I wish that films like Bullet Train could do. Is that
Okay.
they didn't spend so much time meandering and going on tangents with their jokes, that instead they were able to be a little more seamless and a little more varied in the types of characters they're depicting. Like I feel like whereas Bullet Train feels like everybody is has the exact same sense of humor, Big Four is something where you really do get like a clash of
Ah,
characters.
yeah.
Um,
I
so
got
yeah,
that a little bit at the beginning too.
yeah, I found it was really enjoyable. So I would highly recommend it. It's a as long as you don't mind subtitles, it's a very breezy time.
I liked what I saw so far, so I'll definitely be catching up with it. and finishing it up over on Netflix. I don't know if you caught this one. It's over on Disney Plus, and I'm assuming it's considered a short because it's only 37 minutes. It's this cute little one called Le Pupille, and
Yeah.
it takes place in like I don't, not necessarily a nunnery, but like this convent, and you have all of these little girls who are all taught to be good. But as it comes to like the Christmas season, they realize maybe being bad could be a little nice. I thought it was really adorable. It's really short. It's shot very beautifully. I think the little actresses in it are also fantastic. I caught this in the morning and then later on caught Matilda. And I don't know, there was something about the charm here that I thought I wish all of Matilda was shot like that. But we'll review Matilda in a couple of weeks. But there's something about this movie that this little tiny short that I think really got the spirit of I guess the season, if you want to call that, but also that childlike wonder that they had of just trying to get something done. I just saw right there that it said Telluride. You already know how I feel about a Telluride list. So
Yeah.
this is also a movie that is produced by Alfonso Cuarón. So there is a chance that you could see this making it all the way to a short list. But I would highly recommend it. I love when these shorts make it onto streaming services, and I'd say that this is an easy breezy one to catch, and I think will leave a smile on your face towards the end of it. Le Pupille over on Disney Plus. Really cute short.
Nice. Looking forward to
Other
checking
than
it out.
that, I want to go through a couple of streaming stuff that came out this week. We had some movies that are going to be coming out into streaming services that played at some festivals. I Love My Dad, which I thought was a really cute one, over from South by, is going to
Best
be over
cringe comedy of the year.
easily cringe comedy. For
Yeah.
whatever reason, it's not opening up on Hulu, but this is going to be Hulu exclusive on streaming, so you can catch it there in case you didn't want to play the VOD prices.
Nice.
Hulu's also going to have The Legend of Molly Johnson. This was mentioned 2 South bys ago. I thought it was a really good indie thriller over from Australia, could be New Zealand, from Leah Purcell, who also directs, writes, and that's her right there in the front. Really cool thriller, Western. The documentary If These Walls Could Sing, we covered over at the Chicago Festival. It's a documentary about Abbey Road Studios. I think a lot of people know Abbey Road Studios. It's only 86 minutes long, so it's not going to give you a lot, and that's kind of how I felt from it. But it does come from the daughter of this guy named Paul McCartney. So I guess if that intrigues you, definitely worth catching it. Some interesting B-roll and some talking heads that they got. Nothing too profound. That's over on Disney Plus. Zach, I don't know. I don't know if you had heard of this. There was a little movie that was supposed to come out. It's called A Very Backstreet Holiday Special Premiere. It did not come out. If anybody finds a copy of this, I'm sure they're going to hold it like it's in the vault. But that got canceled for reasons. Let's just put it there. That was supposed to be on Hulu. And then The Black Phone is going to be coming out on Prime. Just Watch doesn't have it out on here, but this was a really interesting thriller from this year. A little horror movie that comes from Scott Derrickson. He's done Sinister, Doctor Strange. I would have recommended this. Would have recommended this as a rental, but once you get it up on Prime, definitely catch it if you can. Those are the streaming premieres for this week. Let's talk about TV, especially with one that Zach said, Art, this needs to be on the list. He was over earlier in the year, and we got the original run of this series, and now you actually have to search this separately. It is a specific Christmas special for or it's technically a Murderville murder mystery. Who killed Santa? Zach, it was pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, enjoyed the Murderville series, but I felt like it was a little bit up and down, and there were some episodes that were a little more missed
Depending
than
who you
hit.
got.
Yeah, it depends a lot on who you get. And this episode, they get not just Jason Bateman, but Maya Rudolph, and without spoiling it, some other fun guests
somebody else,
show up
yeah.
as well. It's just very funny and very ridiculous, and I like the building nature of absurdity that goes
Yeah.
on here. And it's just like they continue to like put things on top of things on top of things happening. And if you just have the right funny people involved, it just they're able to play it off really charmingly. You know, it's not necessarily like the most tightly scripted comedy that you'll find, but in spending, you know, like 50 holiday themed minutes with very funny people riffing on off on each other, you can
Yeah.
do a lot worse than this special. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, with the whole premise just being that they like write this murder mystery and then the actor doesn't know what it's supposed to be. It all relies on who are the biggest and fastest thinkers you can get. Marshawn
Yeah.
Lynch is still the best one. I don't think anything's beaten him. He is the reason why I finished the original series and this one as well.
I feel
And
like
yeah,
they agree with you based on this episode.
I know, right? But no, it was pretty good. And I'd say that there are better mysteries from the series because we got this one really early when it came to a clue about writing. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But overall,
Yeah.
I think it's worth it because it's the Arrested Development boys back together. And I just love
Exactly.
seeing Jason Bateman's face just look at him go like, you get. They gave you how much to do this? No way. Because he's also a director, right?
Yeah,
The guy from
and it's also
Ozark.
that
Yeah, seeing him
I
do
think
comedy.
they're close enough to each other that Will Arnett
Exactly.
feels that much freer to embarrass Jason or make him do absurd
sure.
things. So
Uh-huh.
it's very fun. It's very
There
fun.
was one moment where what's her name, Maya gets scared. Yeah, those are moments where you can't write that.
Yeah,
It's all impromptu.
exactly. I'm gonna mention this one specific moment because it is in the trailer, but her reaction to finding out Santa was murdered is just my favorite thing in the whole thing.
So, Who Killed Santa? A murder mystery out on Netflix, alongside something else that was coming up, and they told us, "Sorry, we have no links for this." And then everybody started reviewing it. A show that they didn't have too much, I guess, whatever for. It's about a recruit starring the one and only, what's his name? Noah Centineo. Everybody knows he began in Netflix. He's been trying to hop over. He's been in the Charlie's Angels theatrical movies. He's been trying to appear in certain places here or there. I still think he's bound to the TV-ness of it. I don't think he's done the full crossover, so he decided
Yeah.
why not just settle and get a full TV show here. I think he's really trying to fix his image. He still has that crutch where he relies a lot on the boy next door, but he's trying to be the leading man, and he's got a little bit of work to do. I can see we have a lot of Noah Centineo fans. I was able to catch 3 episodes of this. I don't know if you're able to catch any, but he's doing the work. It reminds me a lot of Jim Halpert. What's his name? Jumping in with Amazon.
Yeah, Jason or John Krasinski. Yeah,
John Krasinski, when he did 13 Hours, and then with
Right.
Amazon when he started doing the what is it, the Jack stuff. It's a lot of imagery branding that he's trying to do here, but he's trying to balance both. He was also just in Black Adam, and I don't know if he got the news that that's done too. So
Yeah.
it's been a lot of ups and downs for the boys. Like, he gets a lot of attention. It's a decent series. I can't really say much more with it. It reminds you of the Jack Reachers, but without the IP, and I guess a better leading man. But if you were
Yeah.
interested in it, they didn't
But
have
do
any
you
faith in it because they didn't want us to cover it early.
but do
So
you
I leave
buy
it with a
him
bland okay.
in this mode? Like that's the thing with
No.
I've always bumped up against is I just don't buy him as anything but goofy Noah Centineo.
He should be trying out. Who did you? We didn't just mention him. He should be trying out for the Pete Davidson roles,
Right.
and he wants to be something bigger than Pete Davidson.
Yeah.
But you
No.
an F boy, my G. That's what you are, and I think you need to lead into that. But in 5 years' time, maybe he does rebrand. But I think he's in the rebranding process at the moment. So if you're interested, I think it's like 8 or something episodes. The Recruit. Let me know. Maybe he gets better in the second half. But as my early few episode review of it, it's all right. FX had Kindred though over on Hulu. They have a TV miniseries adaptation to what I consider one of the best sci-fi novels of all time. I've even read the graphic novel. Go read the graphic novel. But I'm not fully against the show. I just haven't finished it yet. But you know, like when something's so good, you hate a show just because it doesn't live up to the hype.
hmm
I think if you didn't read the best version of it, you might still enjoy the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
So I don't
hear
want
that.
to. I don't want to dismiss it. It's just the original is so good. This is the TV miniseries version of it that follows a woman who doesn't realize that every time she's in this house, as of so far in the early episodes, she transports herself unwillingly back to slavery times, where people she may or may not know may be there, and you start seeing this whole history of not just this house but her family. And I think it's one of the most engaging stories. I think a lot of nuances, especially between the characters, because she has a white partner who's helping her with a lot of this. I think it builds up to be a very fascinating story. The pilot is directed by Janissa Bravo, who we really like. She's done Zola, a bunch of other pilots for different series, and I think the pilot is handled well, just not up to the degree and the details that the original was able to give you. But Mallory Johnson, who plays the lead here, I think is able to carry a lot of weight into a story like this. And even Micah Stock, who I think is one of the big reasons why you really gravitate to the original story, is having a partner who is dealing with a lot of troublesome stuff because he also transports back with her. And you can only imagine what that does to a couple where one is black and one is white back in the old days.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of really good stuff, and I think he's able to bring in a kindness to it. He was in Brittany Runs a Marathon. I thought he was really good in that movie. I thought
Yeah.
he, I always remember him as the barista in Life Itself because it's a very big moment in that movie, and I like him getting a bigger role here, and I think he handles it decently well. So for that, I implore you to catch the book, read the graphic novel. And one day we should be getting movie versions of this story. I think a
Right.
TV miniseries is the appropriate length. I saw people really hate it. I don't agree with them overly hating it. I think they needed views, but it's an okay series. All right, it's
Yeah.
an
I mean,
okay series
it,
that
it
gets the
is
gist of
funny
the
you
story.
mention that you want the movie version of it because my mind immediately jumps to, unfortunately, Antebellum with Janelle Monáe, which I think is like a
And
very
Alice,
unsuccessful version of a, yeah, and Alice as well.
isn't that crazy?
Uh,
Yeah,
very
they're both not good.
unsuccessful versions of similar stories, but in the negative reviews of both those films, many people cite the original novel for Kindred. So it is interesting to see that it is finally
Yeah,
getting its adaptation. I haven't had a chance to catch it yet.
no,
Maybe it is a little bit of the distaste from those similar movies
it
still, but
has to be.
you gave me the approval, so I'll definitely give it a couple episodes.
Yeah, this is like the rented version of an adaptation, but it's a must-watch book that needs a must-watch movie. So,
Yeah.
Kindred over on FX. It's a limited series. You could catch that there. One of the other ones that I had booted up here to wrap it up was the first couple of episodes of National Treasure, the series. It's a live-action one called The Edge of History, where you have a young woman who's trying to look back on the stuff that her parents were trying to discover. I think it was like lost gold, and then with that, she's also dealing with some characters from the original movies who are now older and retired. Catherine Zeta-Jones is in here, so this isn't like last week when we talked about the Night at the Museum one, where they didn't even keep it live action. They turned it into a TV movie. This at least is a live action series with a really big
Yeah.
cast. Catherine Zeta-Jones though just did Wednesday. She's I don't know. They taking my woman to a lot of TV series, and I don't really like that. But hey,
Yeah.
money's money, I guess, right?
Yeah.
The TV series is okay. It feels very TV lived in. It doesn't have the scope that obviously the movies would get
Right.
into. They do make a lot of connections to the old ones though. Like I said, Harvey Keitel's in this.
Mm.
You're getting a lot of the side characters. I really hope what's his name doesn't make a cameo in this, but he is name dropped. So you have a lot of Easter eggs, and it is
Interesting.
continuing the story. So we'll see what it builds up to. But as of right now, I think you've got 2 episodes up, and it feels very Disney Plus. But
Mm.
we'll see how they build it up to. This could be the buffer period, and you never know. You'll get a National Treasure movie coming soon. But just to put it on people's radar, yeah, another Disney property getting Disney Plusified over on Disney Plus.
How
But
much
that's all
nostalgia
the
do you
TVs.
have? I was just going to
A
ask, how much
lot,
nostalgia do
a
you have
lot.
for National Treasure? For whatever
No, bro,
reason, I never really got big into them, but I know people really love those movies. Maybe I need to go back.
Zach, every time we cross a red light camera, I always think about posing for it.
Thank you, Nick
'Cause
Cage.
that's how we got it. That's how we got it in the movie. Yeah, no, I love the old ones. That was Jerry Bruckheimer in his era, dude.
In his bag,
Those
yeah.
Bruckheimer films back in the day, no, those were also a big part of our theatrical experiences. So I
Of
hope
course.
I hope it does well. But before we get to our new to see, our picks for the week, Zach, give a shout out to all of the Inner Cutie patrons.
Yeah, we would like to thank the InterCutie Plus patrons, those wonderful people supporting the show. They are Ewan, Julieta, congrats on Argentina, by the way, Garrett, Tim, Elizabeth, Josh, Ashley, Michael, Matt, and Mr. Kobayashi. Our Academy level members are Tushar, Marion, Cademan, Connor, Pete, Sean, May, Ricky, and Antonio. And of course, a big thanks to the producer level patrons. They are, of course, Awkward and you, Denver. Thank you all again for all your support of what we do. And a reminder that you too can become a member of the Inner Cutie team by
Nice.
heading over to patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for patron benefits like early access to Intercut episode outlines, early access to some Intercut episodes, including our upcoming after credits for The Fablemans, access to some private channels on the Intercut Discord, where we'll hang out and chat movies throughout the week, and of course, an invitation to our monthly patron Google meeting, where we get on the call with some patrons and just catch up about what we're seeing, what we like, and what's worth talking about in the movie and TV stratosphere. Art, we still haven't done our December patron call, so not too late to head over to patreon.com for as little as $1 a month and join us for it. Yeah. What are we going to talk about? We have some more brackets that we're going to run through. Maybe our
Yep.
Aronofsky bracket, maybe our Cameron bracket.
I'll leave it up to them.
Preview
We
your
got
end lists.
brackets on brackets on brackets, plus the preview end
Yeah.
list. But we could save that for 2020 because at this point, we were going down our Cameron ones with the release of Avatar. So that may be the one that we go to. But the next week, The Whale comes out. So we have our Aronofsky one. And then obviously Spielberg's going to win Best Picture. So we got our Spielberg one. So it's plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. So no better time than the present and the holiday season. Yeah, if you want to get into that holiday spirit, you can contribute $1 per month on patreon.com/intercutpod, and we're very thankful for those of you who do.
I appreciate y'all. So Zach, with this upcoming week, we're leading into the biggest holiday season of the year. What are your top picks for the week?
All right, so we have been preparing for our year-end lists and trying to catch up on all the media that's eluded us. So one of the things that I've been catching up on is a show I've been meaning to dive in on. It's Industry over on HBO Max. The really compelling show that takes place in a a banking company, following a bunch of young bankers and traders as they make mistakes, do lots of drugs, and have lots of sex. It is, I think, way sexier of a show than I'd imagine if you pitched me like banking show. But there's just so much interesting going on. One of the things about it is I'd watched some of it before and I found it very compelling, but it's also got this level of jargon to it. Just the going back and forth about trades and about economies and markets that is honestly above my understanding of those things. It feels very lived in. I think the creators of the show actually have experience working at trading companies. So it does feel very real. But I think once you sit with it for a couple episodes and you figure out basically who the characters are and how you're supposed to feel about their positions of power relative to each other, you're able to understand the purpose of those jargony moments a little bit more and appreciate the drama of it, even if you don't necessarily understand the finer details of why the number went up or went down. It's also just anchored by these excellent performances. Mahila Harold, who a lot of people probably know from Bodies, is the lead and very good on the show. I'm also really enjoying Marissa Abella's performance as Yasmin, her roommate, but there's just a big cast. Ken Lung, who's at least the person most recognizable to me from his time on Lost and some other stuff, very good on this show as well. So yeah, I went past the threshold of like entry into this world, and now I'm really obsessed with Industry. I don't know yet if it'll make my top 10. I haven't finished season 2, but I'm going to finish it before we record it because I'm fully in on this show now.
Yeah, this was one I had as a pick for the week. Whenever I was watching, I think the last season, and I told you, I was like, it literally gave me anxiety because they're always, the sound design on this thing, it sounds like heartbeats, but it's the phones going off in the background that make your heartbeat rise, and it's just so effective at that tension. So I give it the double up on Industry as well now that it's out on season 2. What else you got?
Let's talk a little bit, a couple movies that are in limited release, but maybe this is just put it on your radar unless you are in New York and LA. Women Talking is the first of them, a movie that I think we both really loved coming out of the festival circuit, from writer-director Sarah Polley, following a group of women who are in a religious colony as they try to deal with sexual assaults committed by the colony's men. It is a fascinating film that is like this difference of opinion movie, this debate movie of sorts, where these women sit down and try to figure out how to be safe, how to live life in the way that they feel they're entitled to. And I think the thing that stuck with me that made this film so fascinating is it feels like watching people learn new forms of language. They're articulating feelings that haven't been articulated by people in their community before. And the way in which the movie is able to depict that, I found to be really revelatory and very emotional too. I think it's a very well made film. I know some people have issues with the cinematography. I liked
No,
it.
I do.
It's it's but there's a lot to really like about the film, even aside from it. I think it's also seems like it's starting to get forgotten in the awards conversation. So hopefully, with this upcoming release, it'll get a little bit more chatter too. I think it's got one of the best screenplays of the year. I think it's got a lot of the best performances of the year, and I think it's also one of the best movies of the year. So, Women Talking. If you're not in New York and LA and can't see it this weekend, then keep it on your radar because it should be expanding to your area relatively soon.
My girl needs to get it. Double up on women talking.
Yeah, Jesse Buckley is the champ. Let's also talk about Babylon, a film that will be in limited release this weekend from the boy Damien Chazelle. His story of the industry moving from silent pictures to talkies and the effect that it had on the industry's biggest stars. It is a bombastic, garish, over the top, indulgent, disgusting, sexually
Filthy.
depraved, filthy film. And
Can't wait to
I
watch
thought
it
it was
again.
quite wonderful. Yeah. It's not a movie without its flaws and without its saggier moments, but I think there are these really electric sequences and these really fascinating ideas being held consecutively in this film. There's just a lot to really dig into and a lot to really appreciate. It's certainly one of the most memorable movies of the year and probably one of my favorites too. So again, keep it on your radar, or if you're lucky enough to be in a market where it's opening this weekend, maybe go to a theater and check it out on the big screen, and keep your ears peeled for some bits of the La La Land score showing up in this one too.
Very apparent. Yeah,
Yeah,
he did not play around. But it's a good
yeah,
score too. The score is out, and it will get you. It will get you moving.
yeah. Brady in the live stream comment says the perfect Christmas watch with the whole family. Only if your family doesn't mind elephant feces. We'll leave it at that. Should we talk a little about Murderville? Who Killed
Shoot,
Santa?
your number four pick.
That's Yeah, that's another one of my picks. We talked about it earlier this stream, but it's just very fun, very breezy. It's available on Netflix. It's not hard to find, and I laughed quite a bit in 50 minutes. So it's I feel like there's almost no obstacle to entry for it, and it's going to reward you for your time spent there. So
And
I
then
like
last but not least, also coming to Netflix.
finally
Finally.
this weekend we are getting Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. We've talked about it several times because I saw it at TIFF. Art saw it after that, and it's also had its week-long theatrical release. I wish it had more a theatrical release because I'd love to see it again on the big screen. But it's just an extremely satisfying murder mystery that has more reveals than any movie maybe in history. I think it is so much fun, maybe even like too much fun. But I'm happy to dive into it again.
Yeah, it's one of the best ones. It's awesome. So Zach's picks for this week, a lot of Netflix stuff. You can go watch Glass Onion on Netflix coming up. You got the Who Killed Santa special. Babylon, it's a long one, but it's worth catching in theaters, especially with a good sound system. Woman Talking, I love it. The cinematography, I wish was better, Zach. But industry, if you do have the time to catch up
It's
on a
really the
series,
color
this is
grading.
a it is the color grading, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Industry is a really good one to catch. Just be careful with your anxiety. The picks that I have for the week going up through them would be Le Pupille, which we had mentioned over on Disney
Yeah.
Plus, a really cute short that I think, especially now that we're in the snowfall season, a lot of people will appreciate. So definitely catch that one. Only 37 minutes. I was able to catch up on this little indie film that's been on my radar for a long time. It's called Paris 13th District, and every time I try to find this one,
Nice.
there's a District 13 action film. Some of you may know that from back in the day. Always pops up in the way, but it's an IFC film that is out and it is on AMC Plus, which I finally have. So that allowed me to be able to get a cheaper thing for Shutter, IFC, and all the AMC stuff, and I was able to catch this movie, which is very. It's a French film, and it pretty much follows a couple who becomes like three couples, and they live in an apartment, and they also work together, and it's just an easy breezy going through uh, days in and out and the different perspectives that they come with. You have, if I pull her up right here, someone who many people may know, Noemi Merlant from Portrait of a Lady on Fire. She's
Hmm.
like a third character that comes in a little bit later in the movie that changes the dichotomy of things. It's all shot in black and white, and I thought it was a really interesting drama. I would have this as like when we make that list at the end of the year of those little movies that got away, those hidden gems. This fits perfectly in that list. So, Paris District 13, a nice little French film. Argentina 1985, though. I had to.
Yeah.
After the win on Sunday, I was like, let me watch something
Messy, messy, messy.
uh, from Argentina. And Argentina has this as their submission for this year. It played while we were at the New York Film Festival, so I didn't get to catch it out in
Hmm.
theaters, but it is a very long movie based off the true events of the team that was able to do the court case against the dictatorship that ran. I know the last time Argentina won was in 1986. And before 1986, for those of you who don't know, there's this interesting doc on Netflix, the FIFA Uncovered one. It could get into you a little bit of it in the first episode, how FIFA held the World Cup in Argentina in 1978, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they kind of helped the dictatorship there. This is that dictator being put on trial. I thought they got a lot of the casting right. The actress in this, Ricardo Darín, is one of the best. He's been in classics since The Secret in Your Eyes. It's a long court movie, but I still think it's worth the watch. And again, it's a biopic, or biopic of sorts because of the case that I think it's worth catching up on the history of Argentina. Again, it's their submission. One to have on your radar because it's playing over on Prime. In my top two, Jurassic Punk. They changed the name of this documentary from South by. When we had put it on people's radar, it was called Spaz because the guy is known as Steve Spaz Williams. The second I've even been having this discussion where I was trying to say like, freak out, Spaz. I don't think these are words we could use.
Right.
They learned that lesson too because they have retitled it to Jurassic Punk, new poster, and I think it's way better. It's a documentary about one of the guys who helped pioneer a lot of the computer generated effects, a lot of the behind the scenes that happened when creating these things, but more so his story about not just his turmoil, but all of the abuse that they held, how other people would take the credit for things and be the ones who accepted the Oscars. But then also being honest, how he had a lot of his own demons that he was battling. So it's a really good insight into the industry and the politics of it and the creativity of it. But then it's also the story of this dude who kind of like was a rebel to the point that he ruined his whole family. So I would put this on people's radar. If it's streaming, I think that's the perfect way to catch it. I think it's available to rent. And if you're interested in VFX stuff, especially before we get into the Oscars, I think it's worth to rent it. One of my favorite documentaries of the year. But at the top of my list, my favorite of the year, The Fablemans.
Yeah.
This is what we were talking about. $24.99. I know that's steep. But if you took two people to go see this in the theater, that's $11 a ticket, right? You own the movie. It's a weird way to look to math it, but if this was $9.99 to rent, obviously, without even further ado, catch that immediately. It's a little steep of a price, but to own it and to be able to rewatch it, I think it's worth it because to me, this is a combo price. This is a must watch. Go to the theaters, enjoy this with strangers, the same way that they enjoy movies in this movie from the biggest movie maker of all time. But those are my picks: The Fablemans, Jurassic Punk, really good doc on VFX, Argentina 1985. Go Messi. Paris 13th, really good French indie. And then a nice short over on Disney Plus with Le Pupille. But that is all for this week's show. I am Art. You can find me over at LME Explain on Twitter, on Letterboxd, where I apologize for logging 500 movies, but I had to catch up for the end of the year. And every week here on Intercut. Zach, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on Twitter, on Letterboxd at Zshevich, ZSHEVICH, and check out my YouTube or TikTok channels at Multiplex Show.
Beautiful. A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. I get the raw files. You can catch the live video here on YouTube every Monday where we go through the weekend must watch. A big shout out to all the Intercuties who listen live, all of the patrons over at Intercut Pod, and all the iTunes listeners who leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow all the socials at Intercut Pod. And until next time, keep watching movies, and we'll see y'all later. Maybe even send you some unobtainium.
I need some of that like oil blubber with a fountain of life stuff.
It'll just stop you from living and you can watch more movies.